Welcome on into the Utah Blockcast. I'm Steve Bartle, Utah insider for KSL Sports. Joined tonight by the whole crew: Josh Bennett, Tyson Mall, Cam Beck. Fellas, how we doing?
Football's fun again. It's nice. It's nice. It's nice to enjoy football again after last week.
Cam, you weren't here to join us last week. It's good to have you back, brother. Did you
what happened last week?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. 2-0 when I'm on the pod is all I'll say. No, yeah,
all that matters.
Sorry, couldn't be here last week, but feeling a lot better this week. Not that I would have had a lot more to say last week, other than some swears and some sobs, and but yeah, like Tyson said, it's fun to have fun.
Yes, it is. Bennett, you were out there in Morgantown. How was it, man? How was the experience out there?
It was good. Got in Friday night. It was like 11 p.m. by the time we got settled into the Airbnb. Internal clock says it's 9 p.m. Everything tells me that I'm in Morgantown, so go out and enjoy it. Stayed out late. Not going to mention how late, but stayed out pretty late. Enjoyed some of the nightlife, and then got to do some sightseeing on Saturday morning. Went to the bookstore, picked up a new lid, and went and checked out the tailgate scene and got in the stadium nice and early, watched it fill up, and Morgantown's a good time. And of course, it's nice to talk about a win as opposed to a loss. And everybody's happy right now. Yeah,
everybody's happy. Big time win for Utah, 48-14. It was a statement win, in terms of bouncing back from a really lackluster performance the previous week against Texas Tech. And obviously, I think everybody was kind of curious to see how Utah would respond. And I think what we learned this week, beyond just, seeing the production on the field, was, some good things in terms of the leadership and all that, to not let that game linger and that loss linger. And I think that was really good. But, I was out there, Morgantown as well, flew into Pittsburgh and had a good time that first day, driving around Pittsburgh a little bit. One of the most unique places I've ever been to. Have you guys been to Pittsburgh?
It's a place that I've always thought, I've never actually thought about going there. But then when you do think about it, you'd be like, yeah, it would be kind of cool to go see Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I've heard it's incredible. Like architecture, culture, and everything there. Food, I've heard, is great. The rivers and the city and stuff is very beautiful and cool.
Yeah.
I've heard.
Dude, it was cool. It was all of that. Yeah, it was cool.
I've wanted to go to PNC Park ever since I played MLB All-Star and Ken Griffey Home Run Derby and all that stuff. Just that backdrop is
the yellow bridges and all of that stuff. It was cool.
Yeah,
it was super cool. So did that, got down to Morgantown Friday, got a lay of the land and kind of the feel for the vibe. And I think there was a lot of interest, a lot of intrigue around, Utah fans showing up for the game. I guess there are not a lot of opposing fans that make the trip to Morgantown these days. And I think Utah fans showed out well. There was a good contingency of fans out there that, not only showed up to the game, but also had a good time and got out, on the town and went places and got a good feel for what Morgantown is all about. And I'll tell you, man, Bennett, you mentioned the tailgate scene. It's everything there in Morgantown. That tailgate scene, they've got 6 lots, just packed, huge. They use the parking lot at the hospital to
priorities
to tailgate. Priorities, dude.
It's so I went with my buddy who's a West Virginia grad, and when he told me that the stadium shares the parking lot with the hospital on game days, I thought it was a bit of an exaggeration, but it's literally if you were to imagine emergency room parking at the front of the hospital, that's where the RVs were parked. That's where they were smoking meat. That's where they were throwing down. And that's one lot. And that one lot is, that's a guardsman and a half, 2 guardsmen in just that one lot. And they have 5 lots. And Morgantown becomes the biggest city in West Virginia. I know there's not a lot of big cities in West Virginia, but it does become the biggest city in West Virginia on game day. And an elite college town. I should have mentioned that from the jump. Absolute elite college town. It was good meeting some of the Utah fans that were out there and saying what up. And yeah,
it was cool. It was cool. And like there was a moment where like you saw a couple ambulances trying to drive through the crowd and just like couldn't make much room. Like the lights were on. I don't know like if it was an actual emergency. Like I couldn't tell you that or anything, but it was just like, dude, I mean, at least you're right there, right? You know, you have too much of a good time, and you know, you've got the hospital right there.
You don't even need an ambulance ride. Just have your buddies carry you over there.
Everybody in Morgantown's there for the game anyway, right? Like, what emergency could there be that's not local, like right there in that parking lot?
They were just like, you know, we should really cut down our trip time between the tailgate lot and the hospital with all these accidents we've got going on. Let's just set up shop in the tailgate lot. I get it, dude, and I respect it. Yeah, it was an incredible scene. The tailgates, like I said, multiple tailgate lot sizes of, you know, Guardsman Way and all that, like huge. So that's clearly a big priority out there, and they were having a good time. And then you know, getting into the stadium, that was my first time there. Obviously, Utah's first trip out there as well. And I was actually surprised with the stadium out there. Was really impressed. Obviously, West Virginia. I don't know about you, Tyson, Cam, Bennett, growing up playing college football, EA Sports college football, but like
it's like a juggernaut.
Those Pat White, Steve Slayton years, man. Spent a lot of time dynasty, you know. With those teams and you know, obviously, so they've had a lot of success, and it was cool to like get there and like see the facility, see the stadium. You know, they don't have a whole lot of size, you know, a big lot to build on there. It's a lot of hills. They don't have a lot of flat land to utilize there, so it's kind of tough. But it was impressive. Their facilities were still really impressive, and I think you know, that's a program and a fan base that is just dying to get back to that competitive level. It's been a while. It's been rough on
they held on to Neil Brown a little too long.
Yeah. Cam, were you going to say something? Sorry.
I was just going to say this weekend was not the one for them to come back to that level of glory. A lot of the broadcast this weekend was just like, well, we're going through the data and can't find a time when West Virginia has been beaten this bad at home. So
yeah, it was rough.
Yeah, there was
good on Utah.
There was a post on Blue Sky someone made. I can't remember who exactly, but it was basically, it showed a graphic during the game that was like, this is the worst halftime deficit West Virginia has had at home, or like West Virginia has had it since at least 2007. And they're just like, you know, it's bad when they're not even sure exactly how long it's been since it's been this bad.
They don't have the exact date. They just give you a year. It's like, oh man, that is bad.
Yeah, the Fox data team was just like 2007
got me.
Is as far back as I've got.
It's a long time, right? That's a long time. That kind of sends the message.
No, we dumped that data. We didn't think we would need it anymore. It's been 18 years.
My buddy said, he's like, I've been to a lot of West Virginia games and I didn't expect to win this, but I don't think I've ever been inside this stadium watching my team get beat this bad.
It was pretty bad, pretty early too, pretty quick. Utah got on it.
Short of like a punt return or a kick return, it was giving like those Iowa State Utah game vibes from back in like the Shaky Smith game. It was giving a little bit of that, of just like, hey, first time here, nice to meet you. We're not expecting an invite back anytime soon.
The student sections, when it got to 21-0, that student section emptied out as fast as it, like, so they opened the floodgates and let all the students rush in and get to their seats, first come first serve kind of thing, all at once. They exited pretty much at the same
in the same fashion.
Yeah, but they were out last night. It was they didn't let that stop them from doing Morgantown things.
Of course not.
Just got started a little bit earlier than they were expecting to.
It's the post-game tailgate. That's what it is, man. They're serious about their tailgating out there, dudes. It's legit. So, all right. got a few things I gotta run through, and then we'll dive into our conversation about the game. But I am an idiot, and in my excitement in getting out to Morgantown, I completely forgot about our Lodge Hat giveaway this week. So we're gonna figure something out. We're gonna give a couple hats away. We'll figure something out on that front to keep that giveaway going. So that's on me. My bad. I was really looking forward to getting out to Pittsburgh and Morgantown and just totally spaced setting up the giveaway. So that's on me. That's my bad, but we'll still give away some hats this weekend. Just going to figure out how. So that, and then want to make sure I get back on the helmet sticker bandwagon. We got to make sure we shout out our guy Caleb Lomu this week. I thought was or Michael Mogafisi. Sorry, Michael Mogafisi this week was really fantastic with what he did in this game. Didn't allow a pressure. Was really steady in pass protection, and there were a couple moments in this game, going back and rewatching it where he was just being that bully, being that dude, and being a physical menace. And I think him, Jaron Kump, Caleb, Caleb and Spencer got tested a little bit on the edge. West Virginia schemed up some blitzes that I think created some pressures. But that interior three had a really good day protecting and preserving the pocket and then getting movement up front. And Michael Mokafisi, like I said, had a couple of big time blocks against West Virginia. So Mike gets the helmet sticker this week, our week 5 winner. So I want to make sure I give a shout out to the blockhead this week to get that going again. But let's dive into the game, fellas. Obviously big 48-14 win for Utah. A lot of questions coming into this game. Like I said, how would Utah respond after the Texas Tech loss? What sort of answers would we get from the passing attack and the offense, and how would they look, after last week? So, now that we've watched the game, the offense looked great, but I'd be curious just to kind of get your guys' feel for what you thought of the offense and the response this week from Utah. Cam, go ahead.
First of all, I think the thing that I loved seeing the most, obviously offense was phenomenal. Devin Dampier was really much better and obviously visibly much better moving around, made some great throws. But I really loved how quickly the offense came out, especially on the road in a tough place to, West Virginia is not great right now, but Morgantown's still a tough place to play and really just to get to, right? And then that takes a toll. And the way they came out, put the foot on the gas immediately, obviously had a huge lead going into half, and then it kept it going in the second half, of course. I think that's something that we've been missing so far this year. I think that was the best first half we've seen this team play. Again, competition adjusted even. The offense looked phenomenal from the first drive, and that's something I think that I haven't seen enough of this year. Offense coming out, getting started quick, and then just keeping that pedal down the whole game.
Yeah, Cam, to your point, 278 yards total offense for Utah in the first half compared to just 95 for West Virginia. So, a lot of it was the offense, and to your point again, with the way that they started that first drive, they had the snap snafu. Luckily they fell on the ball, got it. And then that next play, Devin Dampier connects with Dallin Bentley, 20 yards down the sideline. Great throw, great catch. And from there on, Utah was just moving. And I think we saw the tempo and rhythm that we were hoping to see last week, but we finally saw that last week. Or yesterday. Sorry, yesterday. So Tyson, what were your thoughts as you watched the first half, watched the offense?
Yeah, same thing as Cam. It was nice to see the offense come out and just immediately put the pedal down. We talked last week. I said I didn't really care too much about the score, as long as they came out there with a win, but also the offense showed that they were willing to push the ball downfield in the passing game. And I think on that first drive, their passes were 20, 11, 5, 14, and then the 7-yard touchdown pass, which would have gone farther. Just it was to the end
Yeah.
zone. It showed that they immediately were able to, push the ball downfield to get deep passes to attack the middle of the field as well, which I know we were lacking last week. They got a lot more points than I was not hoping for, but I didn't care too much about the points, but they got a dominating win, but also showed that they, are willing to attack the middle of the field and to push the ball down. So I was extremely happy with the offense this week.
Yeah, just to that point, Tyson. 6 of 6 on throws over the middle of the field, underneath, within 10 yards, and then beyond that, just to the middle of the field, he was 4 of 5. Throwing to the middle of the field, 2 touchdowns, and a near perfect NFL QB rating. So a pretty good day for Devin Dampier, moving the ball down the field and attacking the center of the field specifically, which is something that we talked about last week. Is just Utah continuing to hit the edges, continuing to hit the sidelines. The middle has just not been something that they've looked at for whatever reason, and it was good to see them adjust and take advantage of some opportunities. So Bennett, with this performance, just what are your takeaways with Dampier and the offense and how they perform?
Yeah, I want to underline the importance of starting fast, right? Two weeks in a row against Wyoming, then against Texas Tech. It's those slow starts really wear on the defense and put a lot of responsibility on the defense. And in a lot of ways, a lot of the stuff that we've talked about on this pod, it felt like someone was listening and was like, hold on, time out, we've got this. You saw the field get stretched more vertically down to the first throw, right? Hitting Bentley maybe like 15-ish air yards, and then he took that to some yak to get it to 20. But that fast start was important. Dampier looked much more sharp this week, surprising what a full week participant will do for you. But to go touchdown, interception, where you saw Dampier, when I watched it back, he kind of played with his fingers, he
looked at his hand,
it flipped, and
yeah.
it was wet. I wasn't in the press box with you, Steve. I was down there. I was wet. The players were wet. Pause. Anyway, touchdown, interception, touchdown, and that's the first half of football. 28 points in the first half. I would have been happy to see 28 points in a win, but to see that come out pissed off, play your game of football, jump all over them, take the crowd completely out of it, it was promising.
Cam, I'd be curious just with that, right? So we've now got a collection of 5 games, with Dampier, and how would you assess kind of how he's performed so far through these first 5 games?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. I think that we are seeing a lot of what we need to see. I think we obviously the reveal about injury and his lack of time with the offense last week is a ton of context that adds some clarity to his performance in that game. I think that we are. It's hard for me because I want a Utah QB. I'm so trained in this repetitive accuracy idea from Andy Ludwig, and I'm so trained in this more of not necessarily a true pocket passer, but a pass first quarterback, and it's not that. And I think that watching his running ability and how good he's been as a passer, despite him being really more of it's a split pass and run guy. He looked phenomenal this week, did exactly what we need to see that progression and see him grow. I put something on Blue Sky this last weekend that was essentially, as long as he stays healthy, as long as he stays in the system that he's comfortable with, he's going to be a really popular 2026 Heisman guy if he keeps that production up. I think he's still a couple steps away from that. There was obviously with Big Noon Saturday, the discussion and Big Cat was saying that look out for Devin Dampier for Heisman. I think it's a little premature. It's fun to get into it, but I think next year could really be that season for him if he continues to progress. All of that said, I think he's a perfect fit for what this offense is trying to do right now. Seeing him throw the ball more over the middle, seeing Utah, get some movement and downfield plays is the missing piece that I think we haven't seen so far. And so as the puzzle starts to come together, feeling really good about it. We shouldn't have expected that to be a day one thing. In a new system, in a new conference, a new level of competition than he was at before, and so I think you're seeing all the right things. You're seeing him settle in. You're seeing the trajectory, go up and to the right, and starting to get a little bit more. What am I trying to say? Just time and compatibility with the wide receiving core. Merriweather not included, but that will hopefully be the next step. That'll be next game. That'll be the next part of the trigger.
Yes.
What'd you guys make of him standing tall, so to speak, in the pocket? He played more inside the pocket and stood in there and made some of those throws that I feel like people were questioning him on being able to do. What'd you guys make of that?
Very happy with it.
Yeah, incredible, especially with the weather and wet balls are hard to throw. There was the one play where I can't remember exactly the outcome, but essentially blitzer came off the edge and Damp had to stop and literally with his free hand pushed the defender's hands out of his face so that he could get a throw off. And it's that kind of thing that really makes him special in the sense that he's comfortable enough with the ball and he's comfortable enough moving and doing things with the ball. He's dynamic enough with the ball that he has the kind of freedom of movement in mind to literally reach out, move the defender's hands with one hand, open a throwing window, and get a pass off for a completion. It's just a very funny sequence of events that looked kind of awkward at the time, but you can see his left hand reach out, move the linebacker's hand to the side, and then throw the ball. And it's just things like that where it's just that kind of presence in the pocket, that kind of with that type of pressure is what makes him really fun and special.
And there were a couple of other instances where, he sensed the pressure. There was one play in particular, it was backside pressure. And it wasn't until the linebacker was, almost got to him. And you can see his reaction. You can see his athleticism, how quick he is, because he avoided any sort of I think he avoided any sort of contact, but was able to escape, get out to his left, and I think made a play. But there were a couple instances where, pressure getting to him. I know he chucked one up to the heavens for Merriweather and just missed him by a couple inches again. But also hit Ryan Davis on a very similar play with pressure and connected for a first down, I think, early on in that game. So I think you look at that Ryan Davis 32-yard touchdown, man, he looked good standing in that pocket for what was it, 3-4 seconds?
4 seconds.
Yeah. Well, and then makes that an absolutely perfect throw, a dime throw. I mentioned that, if for those who are playing the video game, that's the intermediate power throw that's impossible to master on the game, but that you have to be able to do to play that game well. And you saw it there, right? It's that stiff with arc throw is not easy. It's so hard to do well, and he put it on a dime for Ryan Davis, obviously for the touchdown. And I think that was when I say kind of that middle of the field, that deep kind of middle-ish, it wasn't quite dead in the middle of the hashes there, but is not something we see from Utah offenses a lot in general. And to see him make that big throw, Ryan Davis make the great catch, by the way, with a DB taking a hit there. Just like I said, checking all the boxes as we're moving through the season, and just watching him kind of grow and watching his game grow in real time.
Evolve, right? This is sort of his evolution in sort of adapting to this level of play, on a week in, week out basis. Each week, you're facing, good athletes, good defenses. This was, West Virginia is obviously going through a rebuild, and they don't have the bodies, the athletes, the talent that a Texas Tech does, but they've got enough on that in that world where, the scheme that Allie, the defensive coordinator there, his last name's Allie. I can't remember his first name, but they scheme up a lot of different things with that 3-3-5 defense, and it presents some challenges. And so that's the sort of stuff, the week to week stuff that we're starting to see with Dampier, where, and also, I think we realized how important practices are Tuesday and Wednesday's practices in particular, because again, Dampier just looked completely different this week compared to last. Well, I shouldn't say completely different, but looked like the quarterback we saw the first 3 weeks of the season. So
I gotta say though, like having him, I'm just glad that we didn't end up going down a spiral. Having this game go the way it did means we don't have to have a spiral discussion like we've had for the past 2 years of like, why aren't our QBs practicing during the week? How are we doing this again?
It's all, dude. It feels like it's just lingering, dude. It's just hanging out in the shadows, like waiting to strike this conversation, dude. Like it's just there.
I was going to say, I was thinking the other throw that I want to point out, and it doesn't seem like it doesn't have like the wow factor that a lot of the other throws had, but the near touchdown to Ryan Davis when he came across the formation and ran a crossing route,
came up short. Yeah.
Dampier putting that on his inside shoulder and not his outside shoulder is the reason that was almost a touchdown, because he knows the DB is playing off. So his angle is going to be outside to Davis's outside shoulder. So to get him inside and to have him start turning, to be able to start going upfield and let the guy kind of almost like fall off his back, like that's like one of those like instances where if it's just a couple more feet outside towards Davis's outside shoulder, he gets stopped not even for a first down, let alone almost scoring a touchdown. Like those little kind of throws, just putting it in the right spot to put his guy in the best possible position, I thought was like, again, that growth that you see week to week for Dampier. Like those are the types of throws it's amazing to see that improvement on, because just how much better it can even get from there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So
I'm almost
I'll just
positive that Ryan Davis was in on that play, by the way. If it's the play I'm thinking of, I remember sitting there like, and this is the thing that Utah does that kind of bothers me just in general, a quick tangent gripe. When Utah doesn't play the officials on those types of calls very often, in the sense of like,
so right,
I'm
dude.
Screaming at the TV, like, call a timeout. Let them have some time to review this. The ball's probably in. Or the opposite. When there's a play that's questionable that they get, I'm like, go snap the ball. Get up the line and snap the
Merriweather catch
ball.
last week.
Yes.
Yeah,
get up
dude,
to the
hurry
line
it up.
and snap the friggin'. What are we doing? Have some awareness. It's like there's got to be a quick play on those sorts of things to be like, yeah, listen, we're gonna get 1 yard on this play so we don't lose 25 that we just got. Like, let's go.
Hey, at least they got the Wayshawn Parker review. Like, at least they got that,
Oh, if they wouldn't have, I think Wayshawn would have quit football.
Dude.
He was like the camera kept showing him on the sideline, like just nodding, celebrating.
He knew.
Yeah, that's a tutty.
I like that play too, and need to see more of that with Dampier rolling out, threatening to run. Dude sucks in, and then there's just that quick right over your head, right to Wayshawn, touchdown. That was a big bread and butter all year if we let him roll out and do some of that stuff. I know we talk about the pocket presence and him standing tall in the pocket, but for him to be able to 1 minute stand in the pocket and deliver there, and then the next minute roll out and deliver there. Yeah. It's good, and it's going to keep defense on their toes.
Well, and two, I mean, that opening drive, we saw the design rollouts even with that. And I think incorporating that is just another element that these defenses have to start preparing for. And I think that was really good. I think he made a throw to Benny on the sideline that he dropped. Unfortunately, obviously, again, ball is wet, tough. But I liked seeing that, not just, scrambling out of the pocket, but having some of those designed, sprint outs and rollouts where, if nothing's there, he's a threat and can pick up. He's going to have an escort, leading him out, to the outside. Like, I think it's a great tool for Utah to have that in the bag. So, all right, with this win, just where's the confidence level going into the bye week? We feeling good? We feeling confident again? What are we feeling?
I'm feeling great about what we're seeing from the team and the offense. There are, I think, other concerns going into the bye week, not just defense. Obviously, some special teams concerns there. Obviously, some injury concerns. Guys got to get healthy and such, or just got to next man up over the bye week. But I mean, this was a perfect time for a get right game. It's another perfect time for a bye week right now. Feeling really good.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I'm not as confident as I was, before the Texas Tech game, which I think is understandable. Right. That brings the expectations down a little bit, but you can understand nuance and situations and stuff. It's not like Texas Tech just came in and blew the doors off Utah, and it wasn't. We've talked about this. It was competitive for 52 minutes of the 60 minutes of the game.
Yeah. That final score I think there's still I think there's still plenty of reason to be incredibly optimistic. And again, the thing I keep coming back to is the week over week improvements with the offense and Dampier, the stuff that we talked about after UCLA and after Cal Poly and after Wyoming, a lot of that stuff's been fixed. We're attacking the middle of the field more this week. Dampier's been a little bit more accurate. I think he's starting to see guys more. I don't know if the Ryan Davis touchdown happens against UCLA. I don't know if he sees him, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
He still had one. A wide open Larry Simmons running in the middle of the field that he completely missed. Oh, did he?
Yeah, he had two. But yeah, no, it's
But again, you're seeing the improvements. You're seeing the trajectory that the offense is on. So again, we know how good the defense is or has been. Again, I'm sure we'll talk about this in a second with some of the things that we've been seeing, but there's no reason to think to not have high expectations for the team for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I think we saw a lot of what we needed to from Utah to head into the bye week. And I don't want to say feel comfortable, but feel all right. Right.
Yeah.
I think a lot's going to come down to how Utah comes out on the other side of the bye week. Arizona State coming to town, a much tougher, further along opponent, and then turn around and have the BYU game. Win both of those, I think a lot of us will feel fully pieced back together. But it was good to take away some of those questions that we had coming into this week, because we were hoping to get a lot of that answered against Texas Tech. And I think the Texas Tech game left us with more questions. But a lot of the stuff we've already talked about, the passes that weren't 4 and 5 yards, the cute stuff to two-way players and things like that. The ability to just score, using tempo. There's a lot of things made me feel good as we head into the bye.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think getting some answers with the passing game specifically, and again, what we talked about, getting to the middle of the field, right? Attacking the middle of the field with the passing game, taking some shots down the field. They don't have to be 20, 25 yard type throws, but just throwing it 15, 17, whatever it is. Attacking the intermediate even does enough to preserve that sort of space and breathing room for the run game to operate. And I think that's what we saw this week that I think provided some answers in that sense. And if, obviously it's West Virginia, it's going through a rebuild. They're dealing with a lot of injuries, but there's still a lot of good players on that. I don't know, good, but they still have their guys on the defensive side of the ball, right? Most of those injuries are coming from the offensive side. And I think it was good to have this sort of test and to ace it, offensively and defensively too, with, the way this unit took care of business. Nobody felt bad for Utah dealing with their injuries last year. And I think, Utah went into Morgantown and took care of business there. So I think confidence is back on the uptick, but still, big questions loom because, we know that Utah can take care of business against bad teams. But questions still about, how competitive are they, with teams at the top, right? And Texas Tech. And obviously we talked about that game and that being close for 52 minutes, but got to answer some of those questions and get some of those wins. So I think that's going to be the thing. So Cam, give us the vibe check. What are we feeling with your boy Byrd Ficklin?
Whoo, buddy! I believe I called him Mother Ficklin Bird in our group chat. Feeling great. I think that the vibes are off the charts. I think that, with all due respect to others on the team and just last year in general, obviously they're not. There was a lot of factors that caused kind of the lack of production from Utah's QB room last year, but it's very fun and exciting to have him come in and show that type of production. It doesn't seem like Utah backup QBs often have that type of spark when they come in, or even really that Utah has a game plan for them, if I'm being honest. Utah, I kind of made a joke over the weekend as well that like Utah has kind of a backup QB problem on both sides of the ball, in the sense that they love to let backup QBs come in against them and just ball out, and they absolutely hate to let their backup QBs do that, to the extent that it's just like, I don't know if Whittingham knows about backup QBs. Or at least like it's not like on his list of things to I don't know, consider. I think vibes are off the chart on the offensive side. I think after last week, everything, like I said, saw everything we needed to see. Damp making amazing throws. So like seeing such a dynamic play from Byrd coming in and playing the way he does, an absolute rocket arm. He runs so well, and has great balance running too. Not just that he's fast, he looks like a runner. And I think that it's making me very excited for really any opportunity for him to play, frankly, right? Devin Dampier is the guy, but it's really nice knowing that you've got a laser rocket cannon that's also a V8 engine on the sideline ready to go. And so I'm not trying to say there should be QB controversy, but I'm just saying that once Utah was up by 3 scores, I was like, I've seen enough. Let's get Byrd warming up.
Holy moly, dude. Man, what is more impressive? His athleticism or his arm? It's you see great things from both.
It's to me, I think it's the arm, and I think it's partially, again, I don't want this to be negative on Damp at all, because that's not what I'm trying to do. But his I would say one weakness watching him play, and then even in the game, maybe it was a wet ball, but he leaves some balls short. He doesn't have a lot of zip when he's throwing balls, especially those deep balls tend to hang a little bit, and it doesn't seem like he left a couple short that ended up in PIs, which were great. But I don't sense you're going to have that problem with Ficklin throwing those types of balls. Watching that ball, he just throws ropes, and you love to see it. It looks a little bit like the velocity and the way the ball comes out of his hand reminds me a little bit of how Tyler Huntley threw the ball. It's much prettier being a lefty, frankly, but that lefty magic is so good.
Yeah,
the ball just explodes off his fingertips.
It's in every sport. I don't get it. I don't get
every
why baseball, football, golf, just lefties. Yeah, Steve. Except for Steve.
Keep going, Tyson. Keep going.
Except for Steve.
Yeah,
Swing.
keep going.
I've seen that. But no, the cool thing is, and I hope the outcome of the play didn't turn the coaching staff off to doing this, but Byrd did come in for a package play in the third quarter.
Yeah.
And he 5-yard loss. It kind of looked a bit like a busted play.
Yeah.
So which sucks for Byrd, but I don't know if that's a sign of maybe they're a little bit more comfortable. Maybe if they want to throw special packages and try and toss him out there a couple of times for some package plays.
I think so.
I think that's a big endorsement for how Bird's skill level and where he's at with the coaches is they're throwing him in not as a substitute but with the ones as a special package. So I mean, I hope that continues.
I think that we're seeing basically a shift in this team's mindset the past year or two, where it's genuinely, even if you go back a little bit more, but this year more than any other time, it's get your athletes on the field. It's like all hands on deck. If you have, you see it with guys like Ficklin, you see it with Bray. It's just like when you have these types of athletes who can make these plays, you need to find opportunities to get them out there. Obviously, we've been seeing that with Snowden, and we've been seeing it with Benny and Lander, but like, having Utah be creative and say like, no, this guy is dynamic. This guy can make plays. He gives us an opportunity to do something fun and special and weird and throw teams off. Like, yeah, get him out there. Like, get your best players on the field if they can play. I love it.
Yeah, and I think what's most impressive about Byrd is it feels like, I don't know this for a fact, but it does feel like he's got not only a good grasp of the playbook, but it feels like he has that trust from the coaches to go out and continue to execute the offense and not just run left, run right. He's not out there to hand off the ball. He threw the ball 4 times, and was effective. So I think that speaks a lot when you've got a true freshman in a road game. Although the score is what it is, the coaches like what they see out of him enough that they want to see him go out there and play our offense.
Well,
and sorry, Steve.
I was just going to say, if I'm not mistaken, I think he's 4 for 4 in terms of the drives that he's orchestrating have all ended up with scores. I think he's 4 for 4 in that sense. Every time he's been on the field, he's gotten points on the board for Utah. I think going back to maybe, he had the one against UCLA. They didn't get points there, but I think Cal Poly, he had the 2, and then the 2 against West Virginia, getting a field goal and a touchdown.
Yeah, I still got him as the second best quarterback in the state of Utah.
Oh, spicy.
Oh, I love it. Anyways, with Ficklin, 91 yards through the air, 2 touchdowns, 100 yards, 106 yards, and a touchdown. Wait, I had this backwards. 91 yards on the ground, 2 touchdowns, 106 yards through the air, 1 touchdown. Just electric. And you brought up, Cam, Bray. Man, that athleticism popped, dude. As soon as he took that handoff, you're just like, whoa, what is this? that was crazy.
Yeah, it's like finding $100 bill in your pocket, right? Like,
dude? Yeah,
like having him come in Game 5 and show us that. It's just like, oh, great, whoa, cool, perfect timing too. It's like with some of the injuries we saw this week and stuff, seeing something like that, seeing him come out and play that well, it's a very nice thing. Kind of takes the edge off of the anxiety from some of the injuries from that game of just like, okay, we're not a fully net negative here. There are some positives, guys. The next man up is coming, and there's a lot of athleticism on this team. We just got to find opportunities for him.
Yeah, I said this to multiple people. Like, as much as injured as the Utah secondary is right now, give Daniel Bray all of Smith Snowden's offensive reps. Whatever you're going to run for Snowden, just plug Bray in there instead. Can
he play defense?
Smith on defense.
He won't get burned.
Yeah,
no. I wouldn't mind seeing Bray at safety if he can play both ways. Let's give it a shot.
Do they bring Mekhi Bernard in for the week and spend time with Bray? Maybe show him the ropes of that transition. I don't know.
Yeah,
what to do, what not to do.
The I play running back position at Utah is it's time to pass it on to.
It's time to bring it back.
and Kyle said in the presser, he's like, got to find out more ways to get him involved. Like, I think he kind of took everybody by surprise. Like, Bray isn't somebody that is an unknown to us. We know that he has this athleticism and stuff, but to see that on the field, that cutback was just like, it was a thing of beauty.
The one that the Utah page posted, the slow-mo video for the week. I don't know if that defender, like, I don't know what he saw. Just he saw a guy in a white uniform in front of him, and then he was gone.
Yeah.
Dude.
He just fell to his knees trying to make a tackle with a guy who wasn't even there anymore. That was crazy.
And he just like the way he changes directions, like he's like his like head is like catching up with the rest of his like with his feet. It's like, dude, it was crazy watching that. I've
It's that Bray sway.
Oh,
the brace way, dude.
hashtag it.
Dude.
And he brings a totally different skill set to that running back room.
Yeah.
You know, we got the 1-2 punch with Wei Sean and Nakari, but Bray is like, he's got an explosiveness. He got another gear that those guys don't have. They're more those well-rounded backs that can kind of do it all. Bray is, I think of the 40-yard or so run from Wei Sean, like Bray has that speed to just get around the outside and see you later, you know?
Yeah. I'm with you there. I think that trio, Nakari, you know, continuing to be the guy that, you know, hits the inside and you know, gets those 4, 5, 6 yards consistently. Wayshawn, he's kind of emerging as this big play threat, you know, on the ground, through the air. He's kind of got this unique skill set that we haven't really seen. Somebody made the comparison. He's like Debo Samuel in terms of like body type, athleticism. I was like watching him yesterday. I couldn't unsee it. Yeah, like if he developed as a pass catcher, as a receiver, shoot, maybe. But in terms of just body type and movement, I see a lot of similarities there. But if you can get Bray more incorporated into this rushing attack with those two, that's the full complement of what you would want in a running back room, where you've got dynamic speed, you've got a guy that you can hand it off and trust for consistent yardage, and then you've got this kind of versatile do it all type of back, and I think that's setting up really well. And again, getting back to the bigger conversation, it's important for Utah to continue to throw the ball down the field to give this run game the breathing room it needs, because when they have breathing room, they have success. And what we've seen now is 500 yards roughly in most of these games, and I think that's not something that we should take for granted. So all right, let's get to our next segment, what we think, what we know. I think we'll have some questions here about some position groups, some units here. So let's start with, and I want to kind of frame this correctly. So based on our preseason expectations, what we thought of these groups, just how we feel about these units, you know, now with 5 games of you know, what we've seen from them. So to start, let's start with the defensive front 7, just you know, from where we were coming into the season to where we are now. Do we feel better? Do we feel worse about how this group has performed?
I had high expectations for them. So I mean, I think I would say just beneath meeting my expectations, at least. Again, I had pretty high ones. I think there's still room for improvement, especially with John O'Hall. He shows there's just insane flashes sometimes, and then there's times where you kind of look and like, what are you doing, dude? Yeah. Like, so I think there's improvements to be made there. And the great thing is they're all mental ones, which can be fixed, you know, much easier than just, you know, getting overpowered or, you know, not being fast enough. So happy with that. But like, you know, not really surprised. I know a lot of us knew about him, but you know, John Henry Daly has been just insane. I'd say coming out of nowhere for people who aren't necessarily like super plugged into the program. You know, and it's tough to talk about the D tackles without talking about how just, you know, beat up and dinged up they've been. And I think they've done a fantastic job of rotating through guys and, you know, next guy up, stepping in, not necessarily like blowing the doors off of us, but like they're not, you know, again, like they're not showing up as a minus on the field. Yeah. Like they're doing at least enough that it's a net push at worst, which has been fantastic, I think. And Lander's Lander. I mean, he's having a great year. We know that. That the play he had I can't remember the end result of it, but seeing the running back take the play fake and then start blocking and then immediately just shot downfield right, through the A gap and came untouched.
Oh, yeah.
Like, those are the types of plays that you expect, a player like Lander Barton to make, and he's been making them. So, I mean, meets expectations for him, and those expectations are really high. So overall, I think it's been amazing how the front seven's done.
Love that. And yeah, I think, with the defensive front seven, right, I sort of anticipated Logan Fano emerging as the big sack guy, but John Henry Daly surprising us all with what he's doing so far, 6.5 sacks. He's filling that role, and I think that's what Utah needed more than anybody else. Like, regardless of who, just get somebody to do it, right? And I think that's the big thing there. And then with the interior guys, Jonah Leia isn't a guy that's going to get a lot of praise for what he's doing, but given his background, the context around him, having put on so much weight, and being as consistent as he's been so far, through the first 5 games, he deserves a shout out for sure. He's exceeded my expectations, on an individual level. So yeah. Any other thoughts on the defensive front?
I'll just say, I think, to Tyson's point, I did have really high expectations for the front seven on the defense. And so I think they're probably meeting my expectations. There's been some surprises. I think the biggest surprise about John Henry Daly's production is more just in contrast to Logan Fano's, in the sense that if you were to ask me before the season who would be the guy who's making that production, probably would have thought Fano. Right. And so having JHD do what he's doing is awesome, because Fano is still that guy, and he's still going to have moments. And, obviously coming off some injury stuff, gonna maybe need a little bit more time to kind of get that speed back. I think the middle of the defensive line is still, again, was one of the big question marks, one of the 2 big question marks coming into the season for me. And, have to love and respect what that group is doing, despite the challenges that they're facing. And so hard to be too critical of them and what they're doing. Really happy with what we're seeing from them. Overall, I think the defensive front seven is frankly, the highlight of the defense, and can't ask for much more.
I think you guys got most of it. The point I want to highlight is, that D tackle room. I think for as banged up as it's been, and not finding consistency and who's out there, I think they've pieced it together pretty good thus far. And to Cam's point, I think that front seven, they've been that backbone of this defense. So no real additional notes. I think you guys covered that pretty well.
Well, Bennett, I'll throw this one right back to you. Let's get to the next group, the defensive secondary. What would you make of how this group has performed? I had pretty high expectations for this group, given what they returned and sort of some of the things that we were hearing coming out of camp. But just where are they at in your eyes?
Yeah, I think a lot of their performance has been masked by the takeaways. They've been great as far as ball hawking and getting interceptions. But there's also been some moments where there's been some poor coverage in the secondary, and some of that's been a little bit concerning. And you wonder what happens when you have somebody that can come out and sling the ball around. I think that group is going to be absolutely challenged in Game 6 against Arizona State. That's where they're going to have to kind of show up, or those concerns start to become very valid. I think of the secondary too. I think some of the tackling there is going to need some improvement. Some of those pursuit angles. Witt touched on that a bit in the presser, said that we need to get better at tackling, and said just getting in proper position to make those tackles. And he didn't blame any single one group, but I would imagine that back half of the defense is what was swirling in his mind when he was making those comments.
I think that, in my opinion, when I referenced one of the question marks as being the defensive lineman, the bigger one for me was the defensive back group. I think that overall, frankly, I've been pretty disappointed with their play. I think that that's a foundational group for Utah football defense and what Morgan Scalley wants to do, and to see them losing guys in coverage, letting guys get past them into the defensive secondary, even when Utah's had to play some zone over the top of coverages, which they don't always love to do. Not really even staying in position there on some plays. Some of it's due to injury. Bennett, you're exactly right. Like the ball hawking has been great, and hard to discount that portion because you got to take the good with the bad there. I am worried with the injuries. Wondering what's going to happen with Benny, obviously with Nate, and how deep that group is. And it really makes me wonder. In the NIL era, it's obviously hard to keep guys, and you can't have rosters the way you used to. And the question I can't really get out of my mind is, can Utah really expect to have the loaded defensive back groups that we are familiar with and that we're so used to in this new NIL era? Or is that just something that, is not going to be as common anymore? I mean, I think all the time about these, the great defenses of Utah football history, right? Like 2004, 2008 to 2019. Those groups were stacked. They were at least, all four guys on the field were great, and often like you'd have three, sometimes four of those guys who had a cup of coffee in the NFL. I don't sense that from this group, and so it makes me wonder: is that a product of a bygone era for Utah football that they've got to find a way to work around?
That's a great question, and I think we're learning in real time, like what this could potentially look like, for the future, and how we sort of need to adjust our expectations with that group, or with how Utah goes about their roster construction. Because again, you're going from recruiting where you weren't limited in terms of there being a cap. Now there's a cap in place that limits how much talent you can bring into your program, right? And I think we're learning in real time how much Utah was overachieving in some respects, right? With the resources available to the program compared to others, across the country. You're realizing how much Utah coaches, their track record, the production in terms of development and all of that, how much that actually meant. Like we're realizing that in real time. And I think it's going to be something where Utah has to, obviously learn how to manage that and budget. I think we're seeing where they've prioritized a lot of their resources going. It's a lot of it right now is in the trenches on the offensive line specifically. And I think that's certainly, smart this season with the guys that you have, in that unit. But I think it'll be really interesting to see how this sort of evolves over the next couple of years. It's so early in this new era, but we're seeing changes. And I think there are still talented players in that room. I think there's a lot of optimism for a guy like JC Hart, but Utah used to be able to bring in a JC Hart and have him for, 3 years, to, at least a season before he was counted on to come in and contribute. And I think this is just, again, making the transition where it's got to become more of an instant type of thing. How quickly can you get these guys onto the field? Because you're going to invest, a good size amount of money into them. I think it's really, really interesting.
Yeah, I think that the Utah's biggest pitch to defensive backs before this era, this NIL era, right, was essentially, we are going to develop you to get paid at the next level. We have the skills to do that. Well, now that the dynamic has changed to, well, we can just pay you now.
Yeah.
It's interesting how development is not for good reason, frankly, not as much of a priority, and something that Utah can't, stand on and lean on as a recruiting tool as often. And as much as you hate to see it, like at the end of the day, dollars and cents are probably going to largely determine how much you can fill out and how deep that defensive backfield can be, particularly because they're some of the most expensive guys in the portal when you're looking.
It's a premium position. Yep.
That's what I wanted to add as my 2 cents to this is, I mean, it's quarterbacks, edge rushers, and secondary. Those are like the guys that you pay at a premium. There's other positions that get, that are sought after. Utah's going to have to do what they've always been good at to succeed and have a great secondary going forward as we get deeper into this NIL era. Utah's going to have to go out and find guys that played at a G5 level, find guys like that, those diamonds in the rough, and get them in, get them ready, and get that production out of them right away. Because, guys are going to Alabama to be CB4.
Yeah.
Yep. Or Utah's, if on the flip side of that coin is like, you find guys at some of the bigger schools that, they went there thinking they were going to be able to get the playing time, but they're sitting behind 5-star guys. But Utah can identify those guys that have the skill sets to be successful, but they have the 5-star guys in front of them, and try and sell them on the, hey, you want the development, but you want the playing time too, and we can give you that. We don't have the 5-star corner sitting in front of you.
I think what we've seen just this last spring portal window speaks to both of your points. Is Utah took a kid from a lower level at Furman and Jalen Moson who had really impressive credentials as a true freshman in the SoCon Conference and came with a good amount of playing time. He was, I think, on the all freshman team as a cornerback. So you like that. You like bringing in a guy with that sort of credentials. And then they also brought in JC Hart, who sat behind 4 and 5, maybe not 5 stars at Auburn, but, but the 4-star blue chip type guys in that secondary. He sat behind them, 2 years. He's a kid that he's got the elite qualities. He's 6'2", he's long, he's a 4'3" type of athlete. And for him, it's going to be about development, but that's still a guy that you want to bring in and have Coach Shaw develop. So I think, it's a balance of both, right? There's not one cookie cutter way to do this. And that's going to be the key is Utah has to be flexible with how they go about, their recruitment at this position specifically.
And it's going to bite Utah in the butt sometimes. I mean, like, just to get that out of the way now.
It bites everybody in the butt.
Everybody in the butt. Yeah. Like you can't expect a guy just because he came from a higher level or because he produced at a lower level to come in and be the guy. Like sometimes it just doesn't work out. So, that's the gamble you got to take. That's college football now.
Yep. I agree. All right. Last one in terms of expectations preseason and what we've sort of learned through 5 games. I'm going to throw this one out to you guys. Jason Beck, Morgan Scalley, what are your thoughts?
Meeting every expectation I had for him.
I think Beck's doing incredible. Morgan's doing what he can with what he's got, frankly.
Yeah.
I think that's fair. I think Beck brings a unique offense, a creative offense, a more fun offense, less predictable offense, and really like the adjustments we saw from Texas Tech to West Virginia, and very interested in how that looks going forward. But to this point, I think Beck's been everything that Utah needs. Scalley, like to see him get that secondary going. Interested to see what he's going to be able to do with a thin safety room. If Nate Ritchie does need to miss significant time, you've got Nate Tillman that needs to step in. He's young. It'll be interesting to see what he's able to do with that safety room. So while Scalley's been Scalley thus far, I think a lot of that's going to come out as we get into these next games, and honestly going to learn a lot about Scalley and his defense this year against Arizona State. Levitt and Tyson, they were playing catch. They were playing catch against
TCU.
Sorry.
Yeah,
I don't think that's an if on Nate Ritchie. I know you guys were at the game. I don't know if they replayed it. That was one of the more gruesome injuries I think I've seen.
Yeah,
he walked right by us on the field, and it didn't look great.
No, yeah, I mean,
it
didn't
look great, and then just his demeanor, I just feel bad for the guy.
Yeah,
you could,
but like Nate Tillman, like he had his freshman moments, I think last night, but he had the moments where you see it, you see that sort of factor, that athleticism and the playmaking ability he's got. So, playing the rest of the game, I think is going to be really good for him. I hate saying I'm glad to see an injury happen. Like, obviously I'm not. But if it had to happen, second play of the game and getting Nate Tillman an entire game and then a bye week before going into a game like Arizona State is better than Nate Ritchie doing it like, first play of the game against Arizona State or at the end of the game. And, Tillman not really getting the game experience before that. So I guess silver linings. I hate to say that. Sorry, Nate.
Yeah.
Ritchie, not Tillman. I'm happy for Tillman. But
to your point, nuance, right? Like no injury is good, even if it's an opposing player, right? But it's just like, you've got to be able to take whatever good there is from this. And I think that's
for
fair.
Sure.
Like Tillman getting some reps, having the whole bye week to work through this, that injury happening in the first or the second play of the Arizona State game versus West Virginia would be devastating. Right. And not that it's not devastating, obviously, for Nate or for the team long term, but would have so much more impact than getting Tillman those reps.
Amen. Yep. Yeah. No, that's a great point. And, to your point about Tillman, there were some good things. I think he's definitely more comfortable getting downhill, seeing what's in front of him. Obviously, there's some learning. And with freshmen, there's just you've got to acclimate into those game situations, into the game environment, right? Like this is a totally new world, and you're suddenly dealing with things that you didn't necessarily have to deal with, in high school in terms of the athletes that you're competing against. And there's a lot of pressure. And I think for him to make that mistake that he did, it sucked that he wasn't able to make the play, but he'll have the opportunity now to learn from that. And I think watching him throughout the rest of the game, again, very willing to throw himself into the mix and make tackles and be physical and getting downhill. And I think there's a lot to like there with Nate Tillman.
I think Whit mentioned in the presser too, like he said, given time, Nate Tillman will learn that's an interception.
Yep.
He's just a freshman out there, making a freshman play, but give him time, and that's a pick for future Nate Tillman.
100%. There's a lot of optimism around Nate and his future at Utah. So good to get that one, when it did. All right.
Julian Blackman didn't look great in his first game either.
He did not.
Neither did Marcus Williams, right? Like, this something that we've seen in years past. So
it's hard, man. Like it's a hard sport and it's a hard position. Like, he'll be fun.
Yep. Let's finish this one up. Taking a look at the Big 12, just kind of running through how we tier the Big 12 picture here. So I think I assume that we're all of the same mindset here, in terms of the Big 12 picture and how it looks after week 5. We've got Texas Tech, Arizona State, tier 1. That fair? They're in a tier on their own, I think.
I think I still put Texas Tech by themselves.
Yeah.
Okay, Texas Tech on their own. Okay.
I think tier 2 is kind of a mess, and that's I've got Arizona State in there, I've got Utah in there, I've got BYU in there,
TCU
in there,
Iowa State.
Iowa State
is the one I would say is maybe my next tier.
Yeah.
I think that but otherwise I think that I'm not quite ready to put Arizona State there. Like they look,
that's fair.
They look pretty good on Friday. But I mean, like if they played TCU 10 more times, or 9 more times, they go 5-5, right? Like
I swear Josh Hoover forgot how to quarterback. Like the Monstars got to him after the third quarter and sapped his talent, dude. Like, I don't know what happened. The first 3 quarters, he looked great. And then was like, what am I doing out here with the ball in my hand? Like, just looked Like he was completely lost. Like he didn't belong on that field. Anyways, so very disappointed in Josh
desert,
Hooper.
Man. Weird things happen in the desert.
You ain't kidding, man. You ain't kidding. All right, so we'll go Texas Tech, Iowa State in tier 1. Combination Arizona State, TCU, Utah, BYU. Who else? I think
I'm not. I mean, I want to put
still not
Kansas
sold
in the
on
bottom
Baylor.
of tier 2, but maybe
I'm not
tier
either.
3. Yeah, Baylor I think looks okay. Dave Aranda's. I just don't think it's gonna work there long term.
Yeah.
Man, how many tiers are there? What's the worst one? Where's the bottom one? There,
Oklahoma State.
Oklahoma State. by
Yeah.
themselves.
But is that like how far? Like, I mean, we are. If Oklahoma State's in tier 7, is there anyone in 5 and 6? Is what I'm saying.
We went
like empty 5, empty 6. Oklahoma State in 7.
We could do that. We went 5 tiers last week with Oklahoma State at the bottom by itself, and we had the other 15 teams in the other 4 tiers. But
I'm just not sure
Tech,
it provides the proper context to have even teams in the tier above them. I think there needs to be enough.
That's a great point.
Like it's like tier 1 is what we've talked about, tier 2, tier 3, and then tier 4 is like 10,000 pounds of crap, and then Oklahoma State is in tier 5.
If we're moving,
I think that's fair.
If we're moving into tier 3, like Houston, Cincinnati, Baylor, Kansas.
Yeah.
UCF. I'd put UCF in there.
Houston looks better than I expected.
Kansas State. Pretty bad, too, if I remember right.
Well, that's true. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, Houston does look good. Obviously, they had to come from behind against Oregon State, but on the road in Corvallis, who among us, right? Who among us?
Exactly. Let he who has not shit the bed in Corvallis cast the first stone.
Yeah,
if
Houston would have handled business and like thumped Oregon State, then they're probably in that tier 2 conversation at this point.
Yeah,
but yeah,
we'll see where they're at this week.
Yeah. All right. I think we have a good idea of the top 2 tiers. The rest is whatever. And then 3, 4, 5, 6, and then 7, tier 7. We've got Oklahoma State at the bottom here. Is that fair? I think that's fair. All right. That's fair. All right. Well, fellas, any final thoughts before we put a bow on this one?
Run the table.
Great. It's always never a better time for a bye week.
Oh man.
Yeah,
I'm telling you. I've got golf courses like just calling my name right now.
I've never seen a bye week that I wasn't like right on time.
Yep.
I've never been like, can't we wait one more week for a bye? Nope. Everybody rest. Man. Everybody sleep. Ice up.
Yep. Enjoy it. Get out. Go on a little road trip. Go on a little vacation. Get up into the mountains. Do whatever you need to do. Dude, they are. Yeah.
Popping.
Yeah. Yeah, man. All right, fellas. Well, we'll put a bow on this one. Call it a show. Appreciate you guys as always. Appreciate everybody that tunes into the Blockcast. And we'll be back at it. I'll be back at it throughout the week with some more daily content. But appreciate everybody, and we'll be signing off.